Hey, we're back. This is Math, Chapter 2, Lesson 2. We start with a quick check. From Lesson 1, write each decimal as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. Remember to put your decimal over 100 or over 10. Be careful with your mixed numbers. And then for the second half, change the fractions into decimals. Give a try on that word problem. Show all of your work in your math notebook. We'll go over it together in group. Check your answers here. Press pause while you do this work. Press play when you're ready to go on. The essential question: when is it better to use a fraction, a decimal, or a percent? What will we learn today? To write percents as fractions, to write fractions as percents. Our vocabulary is percent, per 100. Key concept: percents as fractions. A percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. 45% equals 45 out of 100, or 45 parts per 100. 10, 20, 30, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 45 parts out of 100, 45%. What does that look like in a bar diagram? 10, 20, 30, 40, and half of 10 is 5. 45% of this bar is shaded yellow. Number 1, write 50% as a fraction in simplest form. Number 1, we start with 50% means 50 out of 100. 50 parts per 100. 50% equals 50 over 100. Remember, when your numerator is 100, you can just say the numerator, percent. Definition of percent: 50 parts per 100. Simplify, divide by the greatest common factor. This time it was 50, and we simplify down to 1 over 2, or 1/2. What does it look like? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 50% of the little squares are colored blue. You can see that 1/2 of this grid is blue. Need another example? Write 60% as a fraction in simplest form. Pause the video, show all of your work in your math notebook. Be prepared to discuss it at group later. Number 2, press play when you're ready to go on. In a recent survey, 55% of cell phone owners said they text message. What fraction of cell phone owners is this? 55%. What fraction? 55% equals 55 parts per 100. We simplify. We're going to divide by 5 on the top and the bottom. 55 divided by 5 is 11. 100 divided by 5 is 20. This fraction, written in simplest form, is 11 over 20. So 11/20 of cell phone owners text message. 55% is 11/20 as a fraction. Need another example? In a sand sculpture contest, 65% of the sculptures were castles. What fraction of the sand sculptures were castles? Press pause on the video, show all of your work in your math notebook. Press play when you're ready to go on. Number 3, the table shows the percent of each movie type rented during a month. What fraction of the rentals were action movies? Types of movies: action movies, 35%. 35% equals 35 parts per 100. That's the definition of percent. Equals 35 hundredths. We need to simplify. Divide by 5 on the top and the bottom. The greatest common factor was 5, and we simplified to 7/20. Action movies were rented 7/20 of the time. Need another example? The table shows what percent of each type of pet owned by pet owners in a neighborhood. What fraction of the pets owned were dogs? Cats, dogs, 45%. So we know that 45% of the owners were dog owners. And how do we write that as a fraction? Press pause, show all of your work in your math notebook, press play when you're ready to go on. Number 4, write the fraction 6/8 as a percent. So we've got to get eighths to 100ths. 2, 4, 6, 8. This bar diagram is divided into eighths, and they've colored in 6 out of 8. 6/8 equals 3/4. If you look at it this way, it's divided by fourths, and 3 of the fourths are shaded blue. Simplify by dividing by the greatest common factor. 3/4 equals how many parts per 100? What do you do to the 4 to make it equal 100? Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. Write equivalent ratios. One ratio is the fraction. The other ratio is the unknown value compared to 100. 3/4 equals 75/100. 4 times 25 is 100. 3 times 25 is 75. So 75/100 or 75% of the rectangle is shaded. Need another example? Write a percent to represent the shaded portion of the model. Going to need to think critically on this one. Press pause. Show all of your work in your math notebook. Press play when you're ready to go on. Number 5, Mitch made 12 out of 40 shots during the championship game. What percent of his shots did Mitch make? He made 12 out of 40, and to do percent, we need to get that to 100. 12/40 simplifies to 3/10. We divide by the greatest common factor of 4. Now 3/10 equals how many parts per 100? What do you do to the 10 to make it equal 100? We're going to write equivalent ratios. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. We multiply the bottom times 10, 3 times 10, and we get 30 parts per 100. 12 out of 40 simplifies to 3/10. 3/10 changes to 30/100. Since 10 times 10 equals 100, multiply 3 by 10 to find the unknown value. So 12/40 equals 30/100, or 30%. Need another example? Anya finished 42 out of her 60 math problems in class. What percent of the math problems did Anya finish in class? Press the pause key. Show all of your work in your math notebook. Be prepared to talk about it in group later. Press the play button when you're ready to go on. How did what you learned today help you answer the essential question? When is it better to use a fraction, a decimal, or a percent? Your ticket out the door? Write 35% as a fraction in simplest form. Show that work in your math notebook. Bye for now.